So this episode, I am going to get the frame leveled up on the ground, get the body on it, and start making a few more pieces of metal to attach to the frame and to the body so that I can bond the two of them together at least well enough that it can all go onto the rotisserie. And let's get started on that.
Hey, we got a couple moose here. Let's see if I can zoom in on the moose. There's the one moose. Oh, here, stop a sec. Yeah. There's the moose. Hey, little guy, he's young. And there's the other moose. We were just talking about mooses before. Hello, mooses. Oh, you guys are cute. Okay, alrighty. So, what I'm gonna have to do here. So I'm at the farm here. Let me zoom out. Bert's giving me a hand here to. There we are. That's better. Bert's giving me a hand. We're gonna cut the whole front with the shock towers right off the subframe. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do it in a way that I still have this and this over here, which will attach to the subframe underneath, which means when I bolt this to the subframe, along with the other side to the subframe, and I put a brace across the front, the top of my shocks will be exactly where they're supposed to be on the new car, which means I can run a brace from here to here that'll lock everything in place, and then I can just cut straight across here and weld this whole shock tower to my new custom frame. So let's get cutting. Okay, so we were able to cut out the left and right front, and I also grabbed the part of the firewall that's in front of the driver's side. The carcass of the car is, I think that's probably not going to buff out, but I'm not going to need any of that. So we're getting pretty close to saying goodbye to that. But I'm happy with that. That didn't take very long, and yeah, we'll talk about what I'm going to do with these when we get back to the shop. I got these parts back to the garage here, and I just want to show you what I'm doing. I'm just going to take a bit of a break here while I'm working on the frame, just to give you an idea of where I'm going with this. So, as you can see, what I've done is I've taken that strut tower with the frame here and mounted it to the subframe, and it's in position, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same with the other side over here on the other side. Then I'm going to run a bar across the top front here, which is going to get them into the perfect position, which is going to position my shock tower tops. I'm going to run a brace across the top that's welded to them, or bolted and welded so that they're not going to move. Then I'll be able to cut them off of the old frame rail, right? And when I come over here to my frame, I'll be able to build them off of this frame and weld them in place at the right height and with them in the right position, the right attitude, the right angle, everything. Now, the other thing that it does for me is it on the back side here, it gives me this mounting point here for part of the brake booster, that metering unit for the ABS system. Then I have the firewall piece, which I can adjust where it sits here distance-wise based on what room I've got in the TR6. And I have the brake booster, the wiring that comes out, as well as the opening here for the steering column, which is down here right now. So that just is going to help me to make sure that the geometry of the front end of this car stays true to what BMW designed it as, even though I know that this is going to get dropped by a certain amount in order to fit my new engine. And it won't be very much, but it'll be something. These are shorter, obviously. Here are narrower. So anyway, that's kind of, where that is going and why I went out and cut those parts off of the car. So, yeah.
Well, that gets me to where I need to be or want to be with the frame. So next up is taking the frame off the rotisserie again, putting it down onto jacks so I can get the body back onto the frame. Digital level. It's at 0. What? Seriously, hang on.
What? What are the odds? Honestly, what are the odds? Here. 0.15. It's like just hovering there. Zero. 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 Just what are the odds of you saw me. I didn't do anything. All I did was drop the frame onto the jacks. Just didn't do anything. And yet I am with the shaking, I'm just like, wow. Yeah, so I just need a little spacer under this one, but, well, I'm going to call that good enough. Wow. That's my one piece of good luck with this whole car. From here on in, everything goes wrong. So now what I've got to do is I have to remount these to the underside because they were off center. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bolt them into place with the body in the right place, and then I will get under there and tack them. All right, so as you can see now, I've got this one in place, and I am just going to give it a bolt down, and then I'm going to make sure that it's in the right place, and then we'll do the same with the front one. Now, under the back of the car, you can sort of see here where there was the original mounts over there and over this side that held to the subframe, to the frame. Now, there was a cross member that went across there and had some brackets or bolts. I've had to, strain relief this in order for these diagonal pieces to come up. I'm going to flatten those out. They will get welded together. But what I would like to do underneath here, and I'm just going to duck underneath here. Ow! All right, you can, let me get some light on this for you. But you can see up in here where there's the heavy bracket with the underside of that hole. And you can sort of see how I've got a bit of a space between that which is parallel to the top of this crossbar that's right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit something on top of that crossbar that fits perfectly under there and supports it. Not so much that I can bolt into it, but so that I have that bracket sitting on it and I can weld through that thicker bracket to the frame. So I'm going to cut one for each side and we'll do that. Right then, so I've got these pieces cut out here, driver's side, passenger side, so they're all marked. Now, next thing on the block here is to create something that will go from the frame and will attach to this mounting point on the body, but come down far enough that I can get that bracket from the rotisserie up underneath it. So I'm going to have to put a 1x3 here. And I'm thinking what I might do is just bring a 1x3 here and then just come straight up and tack weld it onto here, because I've got the screw mounting point, but for the rear subframe, but I won't be putting the rear subframe on while the body is on the rotisserie. It's just not going to happen. So I'm going to do that. Let's get that going. Right, so I got these pieces cut, and actually if I put the nut on the top like that, what ends up happening is when it sits under here, the nut takes up the space almost perfectly. I may only need one, washer on top of the nut, and that's golden. I'm going to tack it temporarily here with a decent tack, something to hold it really well. So moving on, I need to do the same sort of thing at the front. So what I've done is we've cut a couple smaller pieces and I'm getting ready to drill some holes, but they're going to get tacked on like that right there. And the holes on the bottom will have nuts in them, and I will use those to bolt to the pieces for the rotisserie. So I'm going to drill those and get everything ready to start welding the nuts on and tacking them to the frame so that we can get this car mounted to the rotisserie with the body on it. Right, so I have the back just jerry-rigged together. So that's parallel now, that top one. And you can sort of see this one's a little bit offset, but that doesn't matter. But it's good to know because I'm going to have to worry about that later. So that's ready to be tacked in on the outside. And if I can reach the inside, awesome. These, I've just used some wood clamps, some Jorgensen clamps to hold them in place. And they are ready to go. Oh, I just noticed a gap. I'm going to have to just tap that one backwards. All right, so I'm going to get that tap back, and then I'm going to do those, and then I'll have to move this whole thing to the other side to tack the other side in place. Now those have been welded up, so I actually ended up drilling out the holes and countersinking these, mainly because, and of course it's hot, mainly because it's going to sit up underneath like that, and I need to be able to bolt through. And if the nut was sticking outside, so I had holes on this side, but I made larger ones on the other side using a hole saw. So I'm going to flatten that out so that the other piece sits flush against it. And these ones are good. I'm happy with that. So I'll put a washer on top just to give it a bit more footprint. So next on the list is going to be tacking these in place, and then we will lift the body off so that I can get it both sides and give it a good weld. I'll probably just drag the body backwards just out of my way, but that's what's up next. Right, so like a Muppet, I went and tacked these on to the back, and I had to take them off because I forgot to countersink and put nuts in the bottom. So, oh yeah, it goes on there, but then I got to do all that upside down. So I untacked the one there, and this way they're going to match the front, and I'll have 4 bolts or 2 bolts on each corner. Now that that's done, before I weld those, as you can see at the front here, I have a bit of space between the body where this the bumper comes through here and this temporary piece that I put there. Now it's on a bit of an angle this way, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure a piece. I'm going to get some cardboard, do some cardboard template in here just to get the size, and I'm just going to cut a piece on an angle. For that, I'm going to weld a plate in the front that has a hole with a nut on it, and then I'll be able to put a nut through here, and we're done. Okay, so let's make that next. Okay, so I've already cut out one, but I'm going to cut out a second one just because, you know, the likelihood is I'm going to screw up the first one and need another one anyway. So I'm just going to mark this. Now, nobody ever talks about this. Safety with knives. If you don't have one of these proper drywall knives that have a bend in them, you know, normally get those straight ones, right? Which, you know, these crappy things, right? Or you get the metal ones that are straight and have the thing at the top. This one, the blade doesn't move, okay? And it has a hook in it. And what's fabulous about this is, you know, just hold left hand in the hand when you're cutting and you're pulling on something, it just grips, and you don't have to really hold it very much. The other thing that no one talks about is cutting cardboard without cutting yourself. And you see people getting in there just digging like this. You know what? The first pass is just to score your line. That's all it is. It's just to follow the line. If you try and reef on it, you're never going to get a nice straight line. And you only want to go through the top layer of cardboard, and that's it. You know, you're not trying to cut the whole thing. When you're going across the zigzag, take a couple passes. Just, you know, nice and easy, and you're done. You know, the chance of slipping if you're trying to reef on your knife is really high. And if you slip with your knife and you cut yourself, or with this type of blade, you're going to hurt yourself. So it's easier to cut it in 3 or 4 passes, nice and smooth. It takes no pressure, and you reduce the chance of hurting yourself by, you know, 90%, 99%. So anyway, that's just my little tip for cutting cardboard. Okay, here's another little tip. You see a lot of guys who, you know, they put the piece in here like this, and then they'll take a measurement and they'll mark it, and then they flip it. Here's an old trick from carpenter when I used to do carpentry. Take a compass, right? Square your piece up to the work piece and touching. And then the widest point. So measure your compass so that it matches the deepest part, and then just run it straight across. And look at that. You get the line that you need. And I'm going to go cut this, and we'll see how it fits. All right, I just cut that, and that is an absolute perfect fit. Like, I mean, there's zero air gap. Now, all I need to do is mark the underside, or I can mark it from the top. And look here, just mark the top, because now I can see it's just a straight line, and that will fit absolutely perfect. Okay, so I just trimmed that off, and I'm just gonna slot that right in there. It's absolutely spot on, perfect. I'm welding in these nuts into the brackets. These are the ones for the back of the car. I'll be welding them all the way around and grinding them down so they're nice and flush. The small parts here, I cut a groove in them on the angled end and fit the nut in to match that facing angle. That way when I put the bolt in with the washer, it doesn't crush the body of the car where the bumper attaches in a weird way or cause it to be, bent metal. So that's basically what I'm doing here. Well, now that I've had a chance just to clean up a little bit, let's show you what we've done here. So we have these mounted, and there are screws underneath, or bolts underneath. I got these tacked into place pretty good, and there's a nut on the front of each one, so that holds that. I did a couple small tacks just on this here, but they're not really going to do much of anything. It's over there, these things here, the brackets that are underneath, I bolted them in and then welded them. So on that side they are the same as what I've got up under here, except they have bolts in them, or nuts. So those are tacked into place. And I also got the back. I was thinking about doing a straight piece across originally, but decided against that. It just wasn't going to work. So I have this in, and as you can see, there's a bit of an angle on this nut, but that's not a problem. I'll just give it a bit of a tighten down, and that should support that. Worst case scenario, I may have to put something from here across, but I don't think that's going to be a problem. And then inside, what I did was I went straight across with a piece, and that's sandwiching this, so it's keeping the body from being able to lift up. So I think that as far as anything goes right now, just to keep the body in place so that I can brace the doors. So the doors are going to come off. There's stuff that's got to be done. But anyway, I have to do, I've got to repair stuff like this. I have new outer and inner rockers, or sills, as the case may be. And I have new end caps for both ends. So I have those, and I need to replace those on the body. I will then be taking the body back off of the chassis, welding up the whole chassis once I have the body straight and fixed, etc. And we'll go from there. But that's basically where I got to. So I'm happy with that. That's going to wrap it up for this episode. That's all the time I've got. But really, thank you for sticking around. If you made it this far, please, like, subscribe, notification bell, all that. It really helps the channel and lets me know that I'm doing something that people care about or like or want to see. Leave comments, and awesome. Thank you so much.